Are you serious? Are you serious? Well, folks, there's a new oil order. Let me see if I can say that. A new oil order has arrived, and it will be marked by a greater uncertainty and generally lower oil prices as the oil industry is frantically repricing as costs decline and gains in efficiencies are made, according to strategics analysts. As investors continue to weigh up the fallout of a rout in oil prices since June last year, Goldman Sachs has warned that the level of uncertainty cannot be underestimated as these dynamics spill over into the price of commodities, currencies, and consumption baskets around the world, with far-reaching market and economic implications. Now, amid the heightened uncertainty, oil prices can swing sharply in either direction, as developments this week have shown, with a crisis in Yemen triggering a spike in crude oil. Oil has been sideways for about 4 months. At $15 range, it hits a bottom. It bounces up, hits the top, comes back down again. We're all waiting for the next break and trying to find the signal that will push us from the range. Now, you understand that oil was running, somewhere north of $100 a barrel. And then all of a sudden, we have this massive oil decline. And it got down in the 70s and the $60 a barrel. And then it even fell further into about $47 a barrel. Now, part of the reasoning for that is simply the oil reserves that the United States has and has had for decades, as they were buying up oil from the Russians, as well as the Venezuelans, as well as the Saudi Arabians, and were putting it in large reserves. And so they were doing this back in the 70s and 80s. And I've talked to folks that are in the oil industry, and they were waiting for their moment. Now, it's two things that are taking place. It's the large oil reserves in the ground. We piped it into the ground. We're pulling back out now. Oil that we've already bought, owned by Chevron and Exxon and Shell and many major oil companies. And what they're doing is now selling it back in the market with their cost has already been paid for. So there's unbelievable profits for them without having to purchase it from the Middle East. That means the consumption of oil coming from the Middle East is drying up. It's getting at least it's a lot less than it was. Also, the new technology of fracking has created a new exploration for gas, which in turn is also a cheaper way to create fossil energy, which is also driving the price of crude oil down. Now, who's the big losers? Well, Russia for sure. It affects their economy. 40% of their entire revenue into their treasury was coming from the price of crude oil. And when oil falls 40, 50%, there goes the profits. They're just meeting payroll, and there's no money now to fund the treasury. This is why you're seeing Putin drastically have to cut back in many areas, and why opposition's rising there, saying, why are you still spending money on a military endeavor with Ukraine when we're running out of, we can't pay the payrolls, we can't meet the pension requirements, we can't, the economy, look at the currency of the ruble is falling, and the dollar, and listen to this. So with Russia in this jam, they're not the only one. So are the Middle Eastern nations, feeling a major pinch as Iran, and the Saudi Arabians are being affected in a big way. And so what's going to happen is this new technology, this new way of, and they're not telling you about the oil reserves. The articles you'll see everywhere is going to be about fracking, the new technologies that are driving the price of crude oil down. But the truth is, is making a difference in crude oil pricing, yes. But so is uncapping unbelievable, unheard of amounts of crude oil that was already purchased and was put in reserve, now being brought out, is now driving the prices of oil from the Middle East drastically down. That means the Middle East has to do something. They have to start creating crisis to drive the price of oil up. And so Saudi Arabia is going into a proxy war with Iran. Where? In Yemen. But both can benefit by the price of crude oil going up. All right? Russia's got a proxy war going on with America in Ukraine, basically. That also affects the price of crude oil. All right? So you have these, and then of course there's Syria, where again, America and Russia have a proxy war going on. America with Russia and Iran, and that affects the price of crude oil. So all of these things, and with ISIS running rampant in Iraq, again, these things affect the price of crude oil. So we're seeing crude oil. Think what it would be if there weren't all these crises going on, which means the oil industry is under siege. There's a whole big shift going on, which does affect the world stage. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on these things. The war on oil. Did you know in Revelation, the Bible says, but don't touch the oil or the wine. That's very important that you understand these things are already in the Bible. You can look at this oil and the wine as being the anointed in grace, the oil or the anointed, wine representing the grace, or you can look at it from an economical standpoint, this is Revelation 6:6. Let me read it. Here's what it says about the black horseman of the apocalypse. It says, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So the economy and the economy's commodities will be affected by the black horseman of the apocalypse as this unstable economic systems begin to teeter in the balance, and you'll see the push by the new world order to create a one world government managing a one world currency. It'll have to have a one world system, and it will need a one world leader. Are you saved? The beast is rising. Give your life to Jesus Christ. We're running out of time.